Well, I think they're going to be severely challenged. That Cold War has come home. It's here in America.
America, a guy who runs Homeland Security policy for this country, just said the Cold War moved back into your neighborhood. And here's a twist, you guys. He's not talking about Russia. He's talking about Michigan and Wisconsin, two states that just handed their Democratic nominees to people running on platforms that read like a rerun of a show that we already canceled once back in 1991. You guys, communism didn't die. It just rebranded on a TikTok account.
And the polls were wrong again last night when they thought it would be a landslide victory for a hater of Jews. Abdul El-Sayed, lovely gentleman, he's a man of hate. And now he's going around saying, no, I love everybody, He doesn't love everybody. Put him in office, you're gonna find out what he loves. He doesn't love Israel. He doesn't love Jewish people. He hates them. He hates them with a passion that burns in his heart, and there's not a frickin' thing he can do about it.
What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Let me pull out the white tablecloths for you and let me set the table. Michigan just nominated a guy named Abdul El-Sayed for U.S. Senate. Wisconsin is about to hand its governor's race, hopefully not, fingers crossed, to a woman named Francesca Hong. Both of them are running as members of the Democratic Socialists of America. We're not talking about progressives here, not bold Democrat socialists. DSA, my friends, that is the label on the jersey. And the president of the United States is standing on stage in my city and state and went straight after both of them by name.
It's just listen to the official platform of the deranged communists. And these are the people running, and they're trying to run as a big danger to our country, whose agenda is now being championed by the Democrat members of the United States Congress. They have officially endorsed defunding the police, defunding the United States military, abolishing and giving up prisons. They do not want prisons, because nobody deserves to be in prison, even a person that's killed 10 people. Abolishing ICE. They don't want ICE. ICE are among our greatest patriots. Remember that.
I work downtown near the Strip, and I've watched people carry trays for a living. And you guys, I promise you that nobody in this town is standing at a craps table debating the merits of collective ownership of the means of production here. But that is the platform now, written down in public. We're talking about defund the police. We're talking abolish ICE, end the prison system, and take the Senate off the board, because apparently 2 senators per state is unfair to somebody. Here is the part, you guys, that should stop you mid-scroll. This is not some grassroots garden that grew organically in somebody's backyard. This thing got watered on purpose.
This primary in Michigan was worth about $80 million. In outside money and inside money going to that campaign between those two people. And here's El-Sayed talking about Democratic Socialist values, which is not taking money, giving money back to the people. And yes, he was up against a more established candidate. But when you have a record-breaking
$80 million in one primary, this is the most expensive Senate primary in American history. And that's before the general election even starts.
This movement, this moment is for you. And I just can't say how grateful I am to have earned the votes that we got. We took on a machine. You're not supposed to be able to beat $70 million of outside spending. A record amount of money spent in a campaign against a Democrat in a primary in any campaign. You're not supposed to be able to beat that. And what we showed is that the power of our many is greater than the power of their money. What we showed is that if you're willing to build a movement brick by brick, if you're willing to go and travel your state and have the conversations in rooms big and small, starting in moments when people aren't even paying attention to an election, but are paying attention to the price of gas and the price of groceries and the price of housing and the price of healthcare, that you can build a conversation that builds into a movement that defeats Goliath.
Funny thing about a guy who campaigns on getting corporate money out of politics. The irony here is so thick you can cut it with the butter knife. That's like Batman showing up to a crime fight in a limousine. Somebody else is paying for it. Now, you guys, we have to hop over to Wisconsin. I've been to Wisconsin. I love the squeaky cheese, but we're not talking about that here because we've got Francesca Hong, okay? And she's not shy about her feelings about the job either.
In the restaurant industry, when we're out of something, we say it's 86th. And I'd say it's about time we 86 Trump. He represents the utter failure of our government to keep us safe from threats, both viral and systemic.
Miss Hong, I got a lot of jokes for that, but I'll keep them tabled for maybe a later video. She used the restaurant term 86, meaning we're out of it, to talk about a sitting president of the United States. She owned a restaurant and that restaurant closed. So that woman who ran a restaurant into the ground is now the one giving career advice to someone on how to run the country.
Do you still believe that Thanksgiving should be canceled?
I'm a chef, and one of the first meals that I made that was for the community when I was 16 was a Thanksgiving meal. You know, I always think my hospitality background in owning a restaurant for 7-8 years, that bringing folks around the table to share conversation and build community is always a good thing. But Thanksgiving is also a time that's incredibly painful for many people in our communities. And so I think there I wanted to make sure that people understood that there are multiple views, but views can evolve. And the position that I'm running for right now, and I think my background as a chef, will actually help me become a better governor that's able to bring more people to the table.
That is a yes or no question. Do you want to cancel Thanksgiving? It kind of very reminiscent of Kamala Harris, right? She answered with the TED Talk about her hospitality background. That is not an answer, my friends. That is a hostage video where the hostage still won't admit that she's tied to the chair. So here's where this stops being two weird local races and starts being about something that all of us, we actually need to start paying attention to.
Sean, we spent decades fighting a Cold War with the Soviet Union. Now, I choose my words carefully, but I'm going to say this tonight. Sean, that Cold War has come home. It's here in America. This is the biggest, greatest, most existential struggle this country will ever face, Sean. Because if communists get control of House seats, then Senate seats, and governor's mansions, the American dream that for 250 years our heroes bled and died for is gone. And it won't come back because they will never let you get it back. President Trump is the only thing right now standing between the American people and that abyss.
Stephen Miller isn't some liberal at a drum circle yelling into the clouds, okay? He's the guy who runs Homeland Security policy for the entire country. And when he says the Cold War came home, that is not a metaphor. That is actually happening right now. That is a threat assessment. And watch the geography because it's the same every single time. This thing wins in a town where people fix their own trucks. It wins in Seattle where they let people set up whole autonomous zones downtown for a few weeks, like it's freaking Coachella or something like that. It wins in New York where a 20-something with the podcast can out-organize a sitting Congress member. Now it is happening in Michigan and Wisconsin. America, this is a franchise. Somebody found out the formula, and now they're opening up locations. And who pays the franchise fee? You, me, the taxpayers. Because when El-Sayed talks about pulling military aid from an ally, that's a foreign policy for him. That's a debate stage line. When Tu Long Hong talks about the world without prisons, that's a philosophy seminar for her. But you're the guy who has to live in the neighborhood where after the prison door opens and nobody replaces the cops, that you got to patrol. Defunding the police doesn't hit a Senate candidate's block. It hits yours. It hits mine. Abolishing ICE doesn't change anything for the woman running for governor with a security detail. We saw what happened in Chirac. It changes everything for the guy competing for a job at a plant down the street. This isn't ideology for them. It is a resume line. For you, for me, it is rent. It is safety. It is whether the ambulance shows up before or after it's too late.
Francesca Hong, yet another major Democratic candidate who's all in on abolishing the police and is running for governor of Wisconsin, says, I think that my perfect world would be a world without prisons, because we all see the humanity in one another, and then we know nobody's disposable. Well, murder victims are.
America, Bill Maher voted for Obama twice. Bill Maher has never in his life clapped for a Republican. And Bill Maher just went on his own show and said that he'd rather vote for Sarah Palin than the people running this exact platform. When the guy who's been carrying the water for this party for 30 years starts eyeing the exit, that's not a Republican talking point anymore. That is a house fire that the tenants are calling themselves. They said that this was common sense. Common sense doesn't cost $80 million to sell. They said the movement grew on its own. Nothing that expensive grows on its own. Watch Wisconsin, watch Michigan, because whatever wins there is coming to your town next. And it won't need a permission slip to move in. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.